Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Who Am I? The date is January 23rd, 2024. I am your host. I'll be with you for the next somewhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours. It all depends on how the program goes. We're going to be discussing this morning what we discuss every morning. Who am I? Specifically in reference to source energy. Who am I in reference to source energy? But we're going to be asking this question in a lot of different ways. Who am I as an atomic structure? Who am I as a morphogenetic field? Who am I as a powerful creator? Who am I as biotechnology? Who am I genetically? Who am I as a species? Who am I as an individual? What are the freaking rules? What are the rules of this universe? What are the laws? How do you find success? And what is success? So actually that's a pretty good question because, people have all kinds of different ideas about what that is, and it determines how they set up their consciousness, how they set up their analytical machinery, if you will. If you've set your analytical machinery up screwy, then you're going to have screwy, outputs to your data feeds. It's like, what are your primary assumptions? Your primary assumptions are causing your thoughts to unfold differently. For instance, if you think that the object of the exercise, so what do you think the object of the exercise is? The object of the exercise is very high up in the order of your consciousness, where the logic flows from there. So if you've decided that he who dies with the most toys is the winner, then that's different than if you think that the object of the exercise is, for instance, just joy, connection, knowledge, some people, they have, say that person who thinks that he who dies with the most toys wins. He may have left something out of his equation. He may not realize that if you're not happy, then you're not successful. Now, I'm not saying that all the billionaires are happy, because some of them may very well be very, very happy. And their billions is simply reflecting their own feelings of security, and it may be a pathological craving for security that is never satisfied. That might be a possibility too for that billionaire. But I digress. So, who am I? Who am I? I promised we would talk about who am I from all those angles we just elucidated. And we're going to try to. Who am I? Who am I? Let's start with this. What are the rules? What are the rules of this game? Because I believe that this game has rules. And they are absolute, and they work all the time. I guess that's the same thing as absolute. They're rules that you can count on. The universe is unfolding in a particular way. And I actually find this to be something that underpins, is that the word? That helps support the idea that we were genetically modified, because how perfectly the universe responds to how we have been designed. Excuse me. It really does. And the question just is, actually, what is the question? How well do we understand our own design? First of all, we were designed to be happy. And not all of you may realize that. We are supposed to be happy. We are designed to be happy. Our natural resting state is happy. It's at least satisfied. Satisfied in our own skin and happy to be here. And our optimal state of being, well, maybe you could say our optimal state is happy. Our resting state is satisfied. Completely satisfied. Satisfied to be here. Satisfied to be alive. Satisfied to be a part of the ongoing endeavor, which is the unfolding world around you, of which you are a part, by the way. You are an inextricable part. You are pixels in the quantum field. You are embedded in it. There's no separation between you and the rest of the field. That's worth thinking about, because that's who you really are. That's who you really are in reality. I'd like to air quote the word reality right now. My problem is then I don't know where to go from here. And I sit here, my thing sits on the air quotes for too long. Well, I'll just go back to where I was. Reality. What is reality? How does it unfold? How do thoughts become things? How is reality becoming? How is the rolling manifestation? How is it rolling? How do I roll within it? And how do I understand the rules so that if I utilize these rules and follow these rules and pay attention to how I feel and understand how it works, how do I get what I want to be on this planet? How do I get it to be what is? That's kind of the question. How do I make my dreams come true? How do I get my nice house and my loving family and my dependable transportation and my flow of dollars in my bank account and my airline tickets to foreign places and all of that stuff? How does that happen? How do thoughts turn to things? How do desires turn into things? That's actually, I've never heard that question asked. It's always thoughts to things, but how do I get my desires to manifest? That's actually a really important question, and it goes to my own worthiness and my own sense of worthiness. I may not feel very worthy, and I may think that my desires are not worthy, but my desires are very worthy. And actually, the universe kind of depends on everybody following the trail of their own desires, the wick of that fire within them that's saying, come this way, this is what you want, this is what you want, this is what you want. The problem comes when human beings, in their design, they have kind of a design flaw. And that is, I believe that, let's see if I can describe this design flaw, because when our psyches are easily bruised. They're easily bruised. I'm going to just call it that, bruised. That we're easily damaged. And when our psyches are bruised, we are easily out of alignment. As a matter of fact, our default setting seems to be out of alignment when we are bruised, and we are easily bruised. That's the problem. So it kind of depends on, I think what we need to fix this problem is more of us, more generally being in alignment. And then when some of us achieve that psychic wounding, then the rest of us can help those wounded back into their own alignment, inspire them back to their own alignment. But right now, we as human beings don't actually understand the concept of alignment, and we are continue to think of the situation as being very conditional, and that the answer is to bang it into shape from the outside into sort of an artificial structure that, first of all, none of us can agree on what it should be. So we're all kinds of disagreeing about which way we're going. We are crossing our own energy stream, right and left. We are not in alignment. We are not in coherence. If we would all get into that place where we all can agree on what we're looking at, and I don't mean that in the impossible way, because there's a way that is impossible, that will never happen, and that's not the way I'm talking about. Of course, everybody's not going to see it my way or whatever. But there are certain general things that we can generally agree on, and if we were all looking at our desires from a standpoint of knowing that there is a place where our desires do not step on each other. There is a blessed point in consciousness where my desire actually helps yours, and your desire helps mine. And when we all set forth on a trail to our own desires, lo and behold, we end up with a world where all of us get what we want. It's a win-win. It's set up as a win-win. And we could play it as a win-win if we understood that it was a win-win. Instead, if we assume that it's a zero-sum game and a competition between us, and, the bloody battered winner is the one who takes it all, or, some kind of twisted... that's setting your primary assumptions skewed. For instance, we were talking about primary assumptions and how you set your primary assumptions. Well, one of the biggest, might be the biggest, I don't know, it's really big. Primary assumption to set correctly is you can't set your primary assumption as, well, so this is what you should set it as. You set your primary assumption to be that the setup is win-win. That's a primary assumption. If you've set your primary assumption up as the world is competition, then you're playing it that way. And for somebody to win, somebody else has to lose. Now, to be fair, a lot of you are living your lives around something like a sport, where it literally is win-lose. And it literally is a competition. And that's fair. Understand that competition is a real thing. Gosh, I have a competition going with my husband right now. We, although we try to diffuse the personal aspect of this, but we compete every day at the game of cribbage. And we actually have our own special game going. We have designed a version of cribbage that's not quite cribbage. We call it crazy cribbage. It's got a joker, it's got poker, there's all kinds of little aspects, little rules here and there that change the game. It's our own little game. We play it every day. So, okay, life is a competition. In a way, there is competition within the game, but the whole game is not competition. The whole game is cooperation. The name of the whole game we're playing is cooperation. And especially within the human morphogenetic field, because the truth of the matter is that we are one being. All those people out there trying to, banging the drum of trying to get us to be as one, well, we got to watch that. Because we really are already one. And we need to recognize what's already going down, what's already right in front of us, demonstrating for the last, since we started recording history, think of it as like it's the movie that we've been in for the last 200,000 years or so. But the first part of the movie we don't have a lot of records of, but we've been in this movie for a while. And since we started recording history, that's now for us to go back and look. Now we can watch the movie, where we've come from. Otherwise, if you don't understand the movie that we are embedded in, then if you look at current events, it's like looking at a snapshot, a still photo within a movie. If you don't know where we came from, if you don't understand what's been happening, and how this has been playing out, then you really don't understand the meaning of your current events. It's just a snapshot in a rolling film that you have no idea what the plot is. So I ask this question every day in full honesty. Who am I? Who am I? Where did I come from? What am I doing here? How does it work? Where are we going? What's the setup? What are the rules? And we're going to go over the rules. Some of the rules, I mean, I seek only to add my little piece of information. And then it is my prayer and my desire, my hope that that everyone listening to this takes this information, for what it is. It's my perspective. All perspectives are valid and valuable to a point. We're all embedded in our own individual universes. It's actually as profound as that. My universe is very different from yours, which is very different from anybody else's. There are some things within my universe that line up with yours and kind of lead us to believe that we're walking in the same universe, but we aren't. Each of us is in our very own separate universe, very profoundly. And the whole universe, the multiverse, consists of all of the universes added together. And we're all kind of dancing these together. So all that I hope is that you take my perspective into your own and then go on your merry way. Do with it what you will. Get into your own alignment and then do whatever the Spirit moves you to do. That's how it works. Get into alignment and then do whatever impulse the Spirit tells you to do. Now, we're hoping that actually, by getting into alignment, we guaranteed, we guaranteed that we are indeed talking about a positive emotion, because if you're not in a positive emotion, then you are not in alignment with your inner being, because your inner being is not in a negative emotion. Your inner being is not in a negative emotion because it's too busy keeping track of what is. Tracking where all the cells are and where all your atoms are and how the wind is blowing and how everything is moving around you, where it is, where it was. Well, it's not thinking about where it was, but it knows where it was. It's not actually thinking about what is either, what it's thinking about, what your inner being is thinking about, and it's worth pondering to yourself. What your inner being is looking at, paying attention to, and thinking about is all the things that you love. All the things that you want to be. All of the things that you want. All of the spirits that please you. That's what your inner being is looking at and thinking about. Your inner being is thinking about what you want. What are you thinking about? Are you thinking about what you don't want? Are you thinking about what we've got that we don't like? There's plenty of that. There is absolutely plenty of that. And where we are is kind of where we have to start from. But it's not what we should be looking at. What we've got is not what we should be looking at. At least not the parts of it that we don't like. What we should be looking at and thinking about is where we want to go with this. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? I'll tell you one thing, and this is part of my general thesis. It's part of the whole point of me coming in here is I believe that a higher consciousness level from the general population about our place within source energy and how source energy generally functions, and that we actually can understand it and tap into it. I believe that a raised consciousness will free us from fossil fuels. And I think that is, I have come to believe that just in a general way, it's a really important thing to focus on. We need to get off of fossil fuels. And we need to get on to a better energy source, one that will really fuel our desires, really fuel what we are about and where we are headed in the next century. In this century, for heaven's sakes, we've got 76 years left of this century. So we got plenty of this century left. And I think that if we want to make it to the next century, we've got to get off fossil fuels. Now, you may look around at what we've got and say, but we can't do that because look at the reality. That's where all of our infrastructure is. Well, that's another reason how come I'm glad. I am grateful that my Congress is as dysfunctional as it is. Because if we were really highly functional, then what we would do is we would all get together and pass, well, they would, in Washington, they would pass an infrastructure bill based on the infrastructure that we already understand and what we've already got. And that's not the infrastructure we should be building. We have not even begun to scratch the surface of what our new technologies and our new infrastructure ought to look like. And it's going to be way different. It's going to be as way different how the 20th century unfolded from where we thought it might be in 1924. Let's just go 100 years back. And how that century actually unfolded. And what developed. Everything from jet age travel to the television. That was a big deal, the first part of that century. And then later, the internet and how that changed everything, and personal cell phones and the TV viewing on demand, all the stuff that unfolded. If you'd have told people that in 1924, they would not have. It's just so wildly crazy from what they expected. And I believe that we have a tipping point coming just exactly like that. And the technologies that are going to unfold and who we're going to be and how we're going to live is so different than what we're doing right now. Because it's not going to be based on the on the infrastructure of fossil fuels. And it's not going to be land-based transportation. So all these big trucks, and the truck stops and all of the land-based traveling of goods and stuff, it's not going to be like that. The world that we are headed to, imagine this. Imagine a world where we have unlimited free, clean energy at the point of any human being's desire, because the devices to tap into such things are so small, and they can handle so much much ground that we really can hand energy to everybody, even marginalized beings on the edges of the desert, for instance, the ones who have access to no energy stream at all. They don't have fossil fuels, they don't have nuclear energy, they don't have solar energy, they don't have anything. And so they're using whatever they can scrap together, whatever they can find, they're burning that for their food, and it's causing the deserts to grow. Well, we can hand those people energy, and they don't have to kill their marginal surroundings. And as a matter of fact, if we had all the energy that we could want, we could we know how to desalinate ocean water. The problem is it just takes energy to do that. Solar or geothermal, or actually in Tahiti they were using tidal energy. They had things down in the ocean that were pulling with the tides, and they were using that to fire their air conditioners and stuff. It was really quite cool. The ingenuity of human beings is amazing. But when we can tap directly into source energy, the 0 point energy field, if we can understand how to extract energy from this field of limitless energy, we can set about solving all the problems that mankind has on the planet. Well, let me tell you what our problem is. Our problem is that because of the way we extract energy, all of the human beings on the planet put too much pressure on the ecosystem itself. And our population is growing, and it continues to grow, and I don't know how to stop it from growing. And I used to be very, very frightened about this. My own father had a pretty strong sense of population, and he instilled in me, actually, a lack of desire to have children. So I never intentionally went about having children, but my inner being knew that I really wanted children. And so she made sure that I foolishly had children. And so I am grateful that I actually got the children that my thinking mind thought that I didn't want. I was frightened about population, overpopulation, and our population continues to grow. But what's going to happen is we're going to get it. Because we all have an inner being, and our evolution, our forward evolution, our expansive becoming, it's inevitable. I'm going to agree with Abraham when they say that we can't avoid the expansion that we're headed for. It really is going to be okay. Fear not, for all is well. The difference is if we would understand who we were, we could get there with a lot less stubbing of our toes and banging of our knees and all of the bloody. It could be a much easier ride. We resist it every step of the way, and in our resistance, we're sort of like fault lines. You know, if we would just go with the flow, little bit by little bit by little bit, and allow the change and become who we are, and allow the diversity, and not be so afraid, not be so guided by our fears, and just let the becoming become. It would be so easy, but that's not the way we are. And so that's not how we do it. We resist every step of the way. And so like fault lines, instead of going incrementally, we build up this tension and then we lurch forward. We lurch forward. We lurch forward. You know, a lot of times with a great deal of destruction at our feet around us as the things that we created that were not sustainable to begin with come down, because they can't be sustained. Literally anything that cannot be sustained will not sustain. And so what brings it down? Usually I call it, this is my pet idea, when parts of our single morphogenetic field create things that are not in alignment with the group, they are reflecting a misunderstanding about who we are and all of that. Whenever we do that, we create an imbalance in the energy field. It's like, I call it Shiva energy. It's someplace where somebody is not, their needs are not being fulfilled. The needs of that bit of humanity is not being met by the greater morphogenetic field of humanity. And it's not any one individual's business to make sure that everybody else is served. What it is if you would get into alignment with your own inner being, then now all of your desires become, just by their very nature, will be in alignment with what the rest of the group needs and wants. And so then the food supply. So we are a single morphogenetic field. We are a single being, and we create goods and services. We distribute those goods and services amongst ourselves. Those goods and services are everything from, now the really important ones turns out to be things like the food supply, and then the supply of goods that goes towards building the homes that we live in, and the goods that provide the transportation that moves us around. Another important part to the collective field is our systems of goods and services distribution. So how do those goods and services get to all the different people? And then now there's kind of this pull all across the world. All the nations and all the individuals are sort of called to capitalize. We all have to capitalize in order to stake our claim on whatever piece of the currency of the human morphogenetic field. I want to tap into the goods and services. I go down to the grocery store and I buy the food that was produced somewhere and got into the food chain, the supply chain, and then got into the distribution system, and then blah, blah, blah. And I have to have currency in order to justify my having access to tapping into that. And so all of us are asked to capitalize. And it seems wrong, because you look around and you go, well, all human beings, all beings, just because we're here, we ought to have the right to eat. Just by virtue of the fact that we are here, we are deserving, blah, blah, blah. But there's other things going on. Consciousness is evolving, and this general sense of who we are is trying to make it all the way across the field. We need to understand who we are. We really need to understand who we are. And the superstitious nonsense that a lot of us are getting loads of in church, mixed in with lots of deep, meaningful truths, is kind of a problem. I think when we understand who we are physically, as a morphogenetic field, as the quantum field, let's face it, that's what we need to understand who we are, as the quantum field, then we will understand the beautiful, meaningful, spiritual place that our religions served, how they served us, how they serve us still. If we would put them into alignment, put them into perspective, then all of a sudden we go, oh, no wonder my church is trying to teach me this or that or the other. As a matter of fact, if you happen to be blessed to be a member of a church who emphasizes the guidance of the Holy Spirit, then you're fortunate. You got something to work with, because that really is the crux of this whole thing. I've put up this slide of our emotional guidance system. It is relevant. This is how your inner being is speaking to you. This is how your inner being is trying to tell you whether or not the thoughts that you have chosen are in alignment with what it thinks or knows or not. Whether you are thinking thoughts, whether you are actually basically your positive or negative emotions are based on whether or not you are looking at what you want, or whether you are looking at what you've got that you don't like. If you're looking at what you've got that you don't like, you are in a state of negative emotion. If you are looking at what you want out of the situation, then you are in a state of positive emotion. It is as simple as that. Let's see. What is another thing that would be good about your religion? So, if you are in a religion that emphasizes spirit first, now, I kind of understood that there was a sense somewhere within my religion that kind of got that. Spirit first, and then. The gospel's important. All of this other stuff that we talk about is really, really important, but the very first thing is spirit. So get into that spirit place first, and then we talk about stuff. And we don't talk about stuff until. So spirit first, and the other emphasis being guidance from your inner being, guidance from the Holy Spirit. If you happen to find yourself in a religion that emphasizes those two aspects, then you are fortunate. You may still have a bit of 19th century cosmology understandings woven in there that maybe need to be updated a bit. But perhaps the inspired structure of the human beings that you're trying to get to be in harmonic order with one another, maybe that wasn't so off either. You know that you have to take care of birth, and you have to take care of people and their feelings and the practical aspects when people die. You have to do business in between. I don't know. I'm explaining without naming my religion. I'm explaining the positive meaning of the religion that I came from. Now, you could very easily focus in on places where people don't take it right, places where people, impose it with the wrong spirit, or they emphasize aspects of the gospel in a mean way, or in a pedantic way, or in an anachronistic way. All of that's true. But what was the intention of that religion? What was the intention of all the religions? Where did they start? What was the metaphor they were looking at to begin with? And then how did they unfold from there? All that kind of stuff. Who am I? Who am I? Who are we? And what are we doing here? And where are we going? And what is our society going to look like when we get there? I'll tell you what it's going to look like. And it is so pie in the sky that if you look at what we've got right now, you'll say, well, there's no way we're ever going to get there. And, we will. We are going to get there. And I don't know how long it's going to take us. It will be incremental. And it's going to be as we all wake up to who we actually are, and at that point where Shiva has destroyed pretty much all the things that are not sustainable, and when we go to rebuild, we understand better, so when we rebuild it, it's better. And in the meantime, through each one of our individual understandings about this, we will incrementally make this world a more aligned place. So it will get better, and it will get better and better and better and better. Now, I'm looking at that from a whole perspective. The fact is that even though it is going to get better, and it is getting better, and it will be better and better and better, and it's always gotten better and better and better and better and better, it doesn't always look that way, and it doesn't mean you can't have really big, what's the word? Events happen, like things like the Holocaust, things like your country devolving into authoritarian psychosis. It could happen. It actually, you can see it happening in the United States right now. Now, whether or not we're going to go all the way down and elect the dictator, I don't know. But if we do, then we've got to overthrow him, or we've got to come out of that. And the only way we're going to do that is by understanding who we really are and how it really works. And know that When you get into alignment with your inner being, there is no one that can take your happily ever after away from you. You have to move to it from the inside. If you're trying to move to it from the outside, then there are people that can take it from you. But if you're moving to it from the inside, no one can take it from you. Your inner being can guide you right straight to whatever it is that you want. So what is it that we want? I want coherent, efficient, sensible, modern systems. Systems of communication. Pure law of attraction based communications running across all of humanity. I don't want it to be capitalized. I don't want it to be monetized. I don't want it to be slowed down here and there to capture my attention so that I flow unnaturally over there to that monopoly's website, and then they're the only ones that I get my goods from. Now, Amazon, the idea is a good idea. Even a centralized distribution system where upon all smaller marketplaces, can go to, and so that, because it's great for the consumer. It's wonderful to go to one site and there all the stuff is, a single search engine, you find it, there's a way to have the shipping be free. You click on something, you imagine something, you go find it, click, click, click. It's like Accio magic, like summoning stuff directly to you. It's a beautiful idea, a wonderful beginning. There are aspects of it that aren't so great. All the power, all of the stuff goes to one person, and he gets to call too many shots, and it's not. I don't know why I'm digressing here. I'm just trying to tell you, look to what is great about all the things that we're developing and build upon those. And actually, I always get into trouble when I start talking about things too specifically, because my message is a general one. It definitely is. Generally speaking, you need to pay attention to how you feel, because your inner being is speaking to you through your emotions. So if you're falling into thoughts fueled by a negative emotion from a negative perspective, you're looking at the wrong end of the stick. Every subject and all the world is like a stick with two ends on it. One end of the stick is where what you want is, and the other end of the stick is the absence of that which you want. Now, which end of the stick, as you look at any subject, which end of the stick are you looking at it through? Which perspective have you hit? Are you looking at it through? And so it's a question of perspective. So once you hit a perspective, don't keep following a train of thought if that perspective is coming from a negative place. There is only two directions. There's fear and love. Fear and love. Fear and love. It's a toggle switch. It's either one or the other. It's the two ends of the stick. One end of the stick is fear and the other one is love. Now that's hard. That seems abstract when you're talking about, money. What do you mean? And there are some things that seem to be ambiguous. I remember there's a story that sort of illustrates how ambiguous it can be. So Gary Zukav and Oprah Winfrey are talking. They're good friends, and they're talking to each other. And they bring up, so if you're going to be on the Oprah Winfrey show, you're going to be a guest on the Oprah Winfrey show. If you are doing it, what is your intention as you go to be a guest on the Oprah Winfrey show? Are you doing it because it's going to be fun and you really want to do that and you're so excited and you can hardly wait to go, if that's the kind of thing, then you are moving from love. If you are going because you want to make your parents proud of you, that may seem a little bit ambiguous, but honestly, that one is coming from fear. That one is not coming from love. That one is coming from fear. That is coming from a sense of being unworthy. That is coming from a trying to justify your existence, trying to make people proud of you. It implies that you aren't proud of yourself, or you don't think they're proud of you, or you think you have to earn something. It's not a positive place. And if you expand from a negative position, well, my line is that every rat hole is bottomless. Every rat hole is bottomless, and your inner being is trying to communicate with you at all times through emotions. If you are in a negative emotion, then your thoughts, the thoughts that you are thinking, are not in alignment with what your inner being is thinking. And it's really important to your success that you pay attention to what your inner being is thinking. It is valuable to be in alignment with what your inner being is thinking, because what your inner being is thinking about is everything you want. Everything you want. All of the lovers, all of the money, all of the freedom, all of the relationships, all of the material stuff, all of the beauty, all of the everything that you want, your inner being is looking at and thinking about and marking. And it's all you. It's all your best self. It's all your best self. It never goes away. The recording of your best stuff, your love, your what you care about, it never, ever, ever goes away. And that's one of the reasons how come I believe that it's kind of destructive to leave relationships in the background, on the road behind you. You loved your ex for a reason. You absolutely loved your ex for a reason. Now, you also hated him for a reason and left him for a reason. And I'm not suggesting that what I'm saying implies you should go back with him. No, you left him, and there was a reason, and you need to honor that too. You need to honor that impulse. Everything you have ever done, you have done for a reason. Honor it. However, you loved him for a reason. And it would be helpful to you if you went back and just retrieved your love out of the situation. Go and find it. Go and find it in your memory, in your history. Anyway, I'm digressing, and I'm way off track from but I'm so excited. I have regular listeners now, and I have some repeats. I have some people who have possibly listened to every one. Every one of my videos has been listened to by somebody, some of them multiple times, and possibly by multiple people. I don't know. I'm very excited about it. It just means I can't keep saying the same thing every day, because I have the same people every day, and they'll stop listening to me if I'm saying the same thing every day. So who am I? Who are we? I started to do a little riff on where we are going. What is society going to look like someday? First of all, every single being within society is going to know that they are responsible for one thing. And that one thing is they have to go into their own inner system and man it. Get into the center of your center. Get into alignment and follow your impulses. No one else can do it for you. No one else can call it for you, because only you occupy that particular position on the grid. And only from that position on the grid, as you get into alignment with your inner being right there, tells you what to do from that position on the grid. So nobody can, like, from another room or from another country or from another position, they can't point at you and say, you should be moving this way. They can't do that. The only thing they can tell you is, well, I can help you find your own alignment. And then I can help you understand what all of us are thinking and doing. But in the end, you have to call your own shots. You're the only one who can do it. And so every person in our ideal future is going to be calling their own path. Only you can do it. But we won't leave the individuals out in the cold. There will be a general understanding of who we really are and how we operate as a system, as a functioning system, as a sustainably functioning system, with all of us happy and joyful and free and fulfilled. Doesn't that sound great? That'd be great. That'll be great. This is what our inner beings is trying to lead us to. An understanding of how the biological field around us works so that we can be in harmony with that, so that our desire to travel around the world and play with one another and eat good food and be comfortable and all of that stuff does not kill the planet every step of the way. Every time I turn on a light, I don't have to record something on my effing carbon footprint that I have to go make up for somewhere. That's not the way to do it. That's not the way to do it, people. The answer is not to have us using this filthy, disgusting fuel that fuels our society, and then individually guilt all the individuals to recycle or take care of you, be responsible for your carbon footprint. BS. That is not how we should be doing this. We need a better way to extract our energy, and we need to believe that it's possible. Let's just start there. Let's just start there. You have to believe that it's possible, and I'll tell you, there's a couple of reasons why I believe it's possible. First of all, the math has been done, and that helps me believe it's possible. The other reason I believe it's possible is ask and it is given. Ask and it is given. Have a desire and then know that source energy has answered you. How does it answer you? Vibrationally. And then what do you have to do to turn that vibration into reality? Well, it's going to turn into reality, but it may do it in its own sweet time, and it may have nothing to do with my lifetime if I let it go that far. So how do I help it come about in my lifetime? Well, go find the vibration of the answer and offer that one to the universe. And when you do, the universe will reverberate back to you the impulses and ideas to help get you there. And it will do that for all of us. It will help us all get there. But we have to have a little faith. We have to have a little faith in the process, in the laws of the universe and the way it works. It's funny. I have resisted putting my faith muscle anywhere my whole life, except for into a very general place. I had a very, very, very general place I was putting faith. And my faith said, well, I don't know what it is, but it's all right. I don't know what it looks like when I die, but somehow it's all right. I don't know why we're here, but it's all right. I don't know what the rules are, but somehow it's all right. Then I kind of stepped into life in a really big way. I threw myself into it with abandon. Married an alcoholic and had children. And tried to make that work. Tried to bang that out from a physically conditional way. Trying to see it from a conventional viewpoint. Obviously, he was to blame from that perspective. But that really wasn't helpful, and it didn't fix anything. And the only reason that I am on the other side of it without having solved it to get to the other side of it, I'm solving it now, but I didn't get to the other side of it by solving it. He passed away. He got into a car accident, and he very well was probably driving, and he probably was drinking. He died in a foreign country, so the details about it are not as examinable from my perspective. I do have a translated in-depth report about the whole thing, but if I question anything about what it says, there's no way really to question any of it. And so it is what it is. The fact of the matter, that whole experience was trying to teach me that I need to pay attention to how I feel. I could have helped us out of that darkness had he decided to live, if I had felt my way through it. And maybe I could have, but that's not what I got dealt. I got dealt with something else. And so as the world went quiet, after that great big personality that was all over our lives, that had so many desires and so many ideas about whatever, and then so many problems, his psyche was so damaged. He had been raised himself by an alcoholic who was fairly abusive, and he sacrificed himself for his brothers and sisters. His brother and sisters all the time, took the beatings for them, because he was a good guy. But it scarred him. And anyway, so I find myself post all of that. I'm an older person, and except for the pull of, I have grown children and grandchildren. One blood and a couple of more by marriage. Except for that, I have the peace and the space to take a broader look, a broader perspective on life and what worked in my life and what didn't work. And in light of these new understandings about alignment with source energy, how it explained so many things. Oh, no wonder that went this way at this time in my life, and no wonder it went some other way in other times of my life. And then how did I find the husband that I have right now, who was such a blessing to me? What state of being was I in when I followed that impulse, and how much better that worked out? And it explains everything. Alignment explains everything. And so our mission, the old who are we? Where are we going? What are we doing? What does it mean? How does our equipment work? What is my biotechnology? Where did I get my biotechnology? I don't know whether we're going to get to that one today. It all depends on, where this conversation goes within me. I pretty much sit here and talk to myself for an hour and a half, and it's uncertain what I'm actually going to talk about. But we are a biotechnology, and it does work in a particular way, and it does have to do with our vibrational configuration. We have a dense vibrational configuration. You could call that your body. And then we have a more subtle vibrational aspect of ourselves, and that's our inner being. This is the aspect that is connected to all of the rest of the field. It truly does know where everything that you want is and how it is moving, because it's all on different spinning discs that actually all meet in a single spin. It all comes forth out of that single spin, and it's all spinning and tracking at different levels. But since it's all coming out of the same spin, if you go all the way back to the center of the center of the center and line up with that, then it all flows perfectly. The great being knows how to organize us. We just have to start paying attention to how we feel, because our feelings are truly our guidance system, our inner being trying to guide us to that which we want. And I'm going to bring up a concept. I don't always get all the way to this. Abraham always talks about this, but it's your vortex of creation. Think of it as the sum total of all the things that your inner being, through the life that you have tracked, all the things that your inner being has marked that you prefer, that you like, that you love, that you want, that you desire, whatever, the wick of your being touched it in some way and thought something, in your inner being marked it every step of the way. And all of the things that it marked, which were very specific when it marked it, have been moving since then and interrelating with one another since then. It's sort of like ingredients in a cake that you've been adding more and more and more ingredients, but it's not just a bowl full of the ingredients. They have been moving since you threw them in there, and they're becoming more and more and more and moving with one another, and all the desires of everyone else have been moving and baking in this magnificent cake. And the way that if we really want this to work, everyone has to follow their own desires. But it would be helpful if, as people were identifying their desires, if they understood who they were and how it worked. Because when your desires are out of alignment with reality itself, that they don't actually go the way you're thinking, the way your consciousness is set up, is not it doesn't reflect what actually is, then your desires are screwed up. And that's how come, as human beings, we often attribute desire to the devil. Desire is the devil's purview, isn't it? Well, it is when we're out of alignment, but it's God's work when we are in alignment with our inner being and with the morphogenetic field around us. As a matter of fact, it's almost our obligation to follow our desires, to get in touch with them and focus our desires and our beliefs into a vicinity where they are, where you got to follow them. So you got to believe that what you want is possible, or you won't follow it. And if you don't believe it's possible, then maybe you got to work with your beliefs a little bit. Work with your beliefs. Work with what you believe you desire. Maybe what you believe you desire isn't what you believe, because frankly, what you really want is a feeling. It's straight up a feeling of love, or a feeling of clarity, or a feeling of meaning, a feeling of beauty, a feeling of freedom, a feeling of expansion. A feeling. That's what you want, is a feeling. And your thoughts are just how you've translated what you think the object is going to be that will bring you that feeling. Oh, if I had that Lamborghini, then I would have that feeling of speed and freedom and fun and worth and value, or whatever you have translated. So your belief is what has brought you to a place where you think that your desire is that Lamborghini. Maybe it isn't. Your desire is actually a feeling of safety, a feeling of fun, a feeling of laughter, a feeling of joy, a feeling of freedom, a feeling. That's what we all want. We all want this feeling. We don't want the feeling of feeling trapped, or feeling forced, or feeling like there's no way out of the predicament that we have been put into. Well, we have not been put into it. We have put ourselves into it. There is no us and them. There's no one responsible. There's no one to blame. And each and every one of us holds the key to get out of it, out of the conundrum individually. And that's the answer. We help individuals get out of it individually, and then collectively we find ourselves out of it. So what do you do individually? What are you supposed to be doing? Follow your desire. Follow your bliss. Your bliss was Joseph Campbell's way of calling that wick of your forward momentum, that impulse to life, that feeling of motion forward, that desire. It's desire. But it's clear desire. It's not convoluted, misinterpreted, based on not reality, objective desire. It's not like that. Where your soul actually is located is that wherever you feel that feeling, that it's a vibrational thing. You can feel where it is. Now, what is your responsibility as an individual? Well, your responsibility is to yourself. You need to feel good. You need to pay it. You need to value yourself. You need to understand that you are of value. Whatever your state of emotional condition is, even if you are deep in the throes of depression or anger or revenge or authoritarian psychosis, it doesn't matter. Your neighbor is your unknown self made visible. So if your unknown self that you're looking at tends to be a bunch of destructive hooligans, then we as human beings have more work to do. So what do I do as an individual? Learn to follow your own inner being. Learn its configuration. You are two minds. Source mind, specific, meat, person, brain in my skull mind. You are these two minds. One is you connected to the Almighty. It's your slice of God. It's your slice of divinity. It's your inner being is your vibrational hook in to the great picture, the great allness. And those two minds need to be lined up with one another. If they aren't, then it is likely, well, if they aren't, you are in a state of negative emotion. Because if you are in a state of positive emotion, you are in alignment. Your inner being agrees with you. And how totally does that actually, I don't know how to ask this question, and it's going to bog down my presentation, so never mind. If you want to know what you should do for mankind to help our happily ever after collectively come into being, one of these days, the whole show is going to be nothing but I'm going to describe to you what the future looks like. What our really good future looks like. Not the dysfunctional, dystopian, post-apocalyptic representation that we always get from, the movies, who can't see the positive unfoldment of the future because they don't understand where the positive's coming from. And so they just see the destruction that we are in the midst of, and they play that out to the future, and then they go, well, that's where we're headed. It isn't true, though. We'll have a minute of darkness as Shiva brings the unsustainable down. But just like every other time that Shiva has done that, on the other side of it, there are aspects that are better than were before. So post-World War II, let's go post-World War I. And I love to point out this one because you can spot this one by binge-watching Downton Abbey, which starts right before World War I and ends right after World War I. It actually ends right before the stock market crash in 1929 is when Downton Abbey ends. So who knows? I mean, Edith has her happily ever after, and she becomes the Marchioness, and she outranks even her father, and they have that big old castle. Wait till World War II changes how they do business. I'm not sure, how much of that aristocracy. But what I'm saying is, before the war, all of the servants were locked into a particular caste in life, and you really couldn't move beyond that. And all of the aristocracy had all the good stuff, and the lower classes, they had their place, and you couldn't move out of it. Well, that does not jive with the eternal expansion that is happening. We like so much for things not to change, but that is actually one of our biggest flaws, because things have to change. Things are changing, and when we grasp and cling to the old forms without understanding the fulcrum of the spirit that they are flowing with, then we have these lurchy, difficult, rough ride motions forward instead of the gentle flow of better, 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 better that it could be all the time. But we resist that. We resist that because we don't like to see things change, because we don't understand how things change from the inside. We only see the conditions on the outside changing, and as things pass on the outside, we lose our way of making a living, or we lose our place in society, and so we don't want things to change. Whenever anything gets good, it's like, I must cling to this form. It must never change. It's kind of an idiosyncrasy of ours. Another idiosyncrasy of ours has to do with how easily our psyche is damaged. And there's more going on right now. There's a lot of talk about generational trauma. Generational trauma, I see as being that dysfunctional way that we were all raised by people who themselves did not understand who we are. And then now, so even if we were raised kindly, it still implies a big gap in our understanding. So I was raised kindly, and I think that my siblings mostly were, although they had some trauma. Mom, in her very insecure self, lashed out at times, and we took it personally because we were children, and children will take it personally. But it was just coming from her own insecurities and her own sense of unworthiness and her own lack of understanding of how worthy we really are and how this system is really unfolding and expanding. So it was just, she was doing it naturally. But I was raised gently. I was raised kindly. I only remember being spanked once. Mom slapped me on the face once when I was 16, and I remember the incident, and I probably deserved it, so I'm not sure how scarring that really was. They were very kind. My mother was so kind to me as an adult. She was so kind to me. But the fact is that she was raised with a deep sense of lack consciousness. She was raised in the Great Depression. She went through the Second World War. She had beliefs about the nature of reality. She had blank spots in her understanding of who she was. And my father, oh my God, at 17 years old, he was on the island of Tarawa fighting the Japanese, and then spent 2 weeks after they conquered that island burying dead bodies at 17 years old. Come on. So he was very, very kind to me and all of the family, but he was very distant. He was very distant. He was trapped. He was not trapped. He was off in his own universe, He threw himself into his work, and he loved his work. And it made him feel good about himself as a person and his connection to humanity. And so that's where he was. And he came to us in loving kindness. He never brought his negative self to us. But I hear tell that he woke up screaming in the night. He had nightmares. Of course, who wouldn't? I could do a show about all the things that he experienced in his life. I mean, during the war and all of that stuff. At 17, at 18, at 19, he was part of the group of Marines who occupied Japan after the second bomb was dropped on Nagasaki, and they were outside of that area. They weren't in the bomb zone, but they were outside of that area. He was part of the occupying force in Japan, and he was only 19 when that was happening. So, of course, he came by all of his... What I'm saying is we all have generational trauma, even if we were raised kindly ourselves, even if our own psyche was not directly damaged by a negative parent unloading their negative stuff onto us. We still carry the generational trauma. We carry the lack consciousness. We carry the belief in war. We carry the scars of all of that cruelty and that misunderstanding about what reality actually is and how it unfolds because of our experiences with it. So we all are carrying this generational trauma, and I do not believe that it will be solved until more generally more of us understand who we are, who we really are, who we are as a species moving through time, as individuals moving through the universe, moving through space-time. Until we understand who we are and how it works and how we are dancing with the rest of the field. And we need to be in harmonic resonance with the fields, the greater morphogenetic fields around us. And when we are, we create things that are sustainable and sustaining and mutually supportive and mutually beneficial. And our clearer and clearer understanding of that will help humanity get into a better and better and better position. Now, on a very practical level, I have come to believe that our greatest physical issue at the moment on planet Earth right now is that we burn fossil fuels. And in our burning of the fossil fuels, we are killing the rest of the biofield around us. And it is simply not going to be an answer for us to take this paradigm and on this abundant planet of infinite possibility. If we cannot make it work here, there's no way that we are setting off on a rocket ship to Mars or something and setting up a colony there and we're going to make it work there. If we can't make it work here, we cannot make it work on Mars, I promise you. And the answer to the whole thing, and the answer, we're going to be able to colonize Mars. I'm actually not poo-pooing that. We absolutely can colonize Mars, but we're not going to be able to do it until we solve the source energy issue. Until we are working with source energy. There's no way that we are going to be colonizing Mars on a paradigm of fossil fuel use. That is ridiculous. It's just not going to happen. However, once we crack the code of source energy, there's no limit to the things we can do. We can probably build big bubble structures, blow big bubble structures, and then we'll be able to... If we have unlimited free clean energy, we can do anything. We can do anything anywhere. And the biggest thing I see, the biggest hurdle that I see between us and that future that I really want to start moving towards, I am really tired of just boxing with the negative shadows here in this reality. I'm ready for us to build our next iteration. Truly, just to feel the movement towards that new world. That's what I want. I believe that the way forward to that life is that we've got to more clearly understand who we are. Who we are. Who we are as the quantum field. And then that implies the question, well, what is the quantum field? And what are the rules that dictate how that works? Well, the math has been done. I don't know if I need to do this every single episode, but here we're going to do it. This is the math of the... I just captured these slides from the 37-minute, very dense pack program over on YouTube, where Nassim Haramein and his team it's either at the International Space Federation or the Resonance Science Foundation, and both of them, .org, by the way, and both of them probably have links or information that would show you how to find this paper, or how to find the YouTube video that explains the paper. This is the paper, The Origin of Mass and the Nature of Gravity. This is where the paper is, zenodo.org. It's some sort of a scientific journal. I actually don't know what Zenodo is, but this is where their paper is. I do know that. And here is the slides that I have cut from the YouTube explanation of the paper and the mathematics and the physics that describe both the emergence of matter, so it explains the stuff, the appearance of stuff around you. It's all made of Plancks. And then it explains where gravity comes from, so that we can understand how to conquer gravity, so that we can build spaceships, UFOs of our own, that dart about in ways that are seemingly impossible. The only reason that they're seemingly impossible is because our conventional education system has decided that certain things are impossible. And so since they are impossible, why even look at them? Well, look at this one. I love this one. This one shows you the quantum structure of space-time. Look at how it's pixelated. It's pixelated. And all those pixels are... each one of them... So imagine that what this picture is of... well, it is what it is. And here you can see, I got another picture that shows this too. This shows how the Planck oscillator, the vacuum fluctuation, as it comes into being, is spinning. Spin is baked into the cake. It's part of the fundamental structure of matter itself. It's that Planck field spinning. That's what matter is. Here we have the quantum structure of space-time again. Let me just go through these quickly. I mean, if you find any of these interesting, you can always pause this yourself and examine these slides. Then I also invite you to go over to YouTube and find this video. I don't know how to embed it in my own videos yet, and I don't know if it's legal for me to do so. I don't know if I'm allowed to embed a link to somebody else's stuff without asking their permission. I don't know how that works. I am still but a grasshopper to this YouTube content creation stuff. I have just decided that I want to be a content creator, and this is the content I want to create. I want to talk about who am I? Who am I? Who are we? Where did we come from? Where are we going? Why are we here? How does it work? How does it optimally work betwixt all of us? And then just from my own individual perspective, how does it work? Because honestly, that's how you're going to be doing it. Each and every one of us is going to be doing it individually. And then collectively, we're going to start dancing with each other. And we're going to start dancing with each other collectively and consciously. And it's going to be really fun. We have a wonderful, wonderful future ahead of us. So what other slides do I want to This is the slide showing the configuration of the human mind. The neocortex, that layer of mind that makes you human. It's sort of like your broader perspective mind. Now, your broader perspective mind, in a way, is not arguing with the mammalian brain, which is giving you hits and reads on what you prefer and what you want and what you are protecting and what you care about. I always point out that the difference between what you needed to think about when you were a lizard and what you need to think about when you're a mammalian is two different things. If you are a reptile, you're just laying your eggs and going, and you don't need to care about anything other than yourself in a protective manner. You can care about other things, like you care about food and you care about, somebody trying to eat you and stuff like that. But beyond that, as a reptile, you don't have to care about as much. If you become a mammalian, now all of a sudden you give birth to something that's not able to take care of itself. You've got to take care of it, and so you've got to care about it. So that angle of perspective, that angle of focus is born right there as you are directed to focus upon your baby in a way that your hormones kind of direct your focus on that one, don't they? Isn't that interesting? Anyway, when you become a human being, you have another layer of mind over that. You have a broader perspective that you are able to hit beyond that mammalian focus of, I care about my child and I'm protective of its safety and all that kind of stuff. Where did this neocortex come from? It is two other chromosomes fused together. It is human chromosome number 2 is responsible for 76% of the neocortex volume. So this configuration, I'm getting ahead of myself. So this came from pnas.org for anybody who is a new viewer. If you want to go back and really get some more of my work foundationally, go back to some of my earlier recordings. I do more of an in-depth than I'm doing today, but I like to tip my hat every day to the general things within my general thesis. What is my general thesis? We need to understand ourselves. We need to get down to it right now. We need to understand ourselves, who we are as powerful creators within this Planck field, this divine matrix that we find ourselves in, this quantum field. And my thesis statement is that our understanding of who we are in reference to this source energy will lead us to two things: happiness, happily ever after, dreams come true and all that for us as individuals, and then for us collectively as a collective species, as we understand that as we come to better understand how we really are a single species, it will lead us to that. And in doing so, and as a matter of fact, we're not going to get there until this happens, it will lead us away from fossil fuels, because fossil fuels is what's killing the planet. It is that aspect of human behavior that is killing the planet. The rest of what we do really isn't killing the planet. It really isn't. It's the way we extract energy from the dirtiest, nastiest, crappiest, dead old shit. And we need to stop doing that. Well, we will only stop doing that when we have an alternative source, because we're not going to stop doing that if the alternative is what's the word for scarcity? It's hold on one second. I will find it. The word is austerity. The answer to this is not austerity. We do not have to ration energy in our future to make it to our future. We need to shift how we get energy. And then we don't need to ration it. We actually need to jack up how much energy we're using on this planet. Because we need to resequester carbon back into the earth. We need to recycle Garbage Island, and we need to desalinate a whole hell of a lot of seawater so that we can rebloom the deserts, so we can shrink the deserts, so we can rebuild the abundance back on planet Earth. We need to re-encourage the growing of the rainforest. We need to do all of these things. And it's going to take a lot of energy to do that. And we still need to pull all of our transportation systems up off the surface of the planet. We need to zip around the planet like nobody's business. We love to do that. We love to fly around the planet and visit one another and see how other people live and what other people eat and how other people drive and what kind of music they listen to and how they have worked out the problems within their own societies. You know, that's what we love to do, and we need to keep doing it. And austerity is absolutely not going to get us there. And not only that, people are not going to stop what they're doing. They're not going to stop playing. They're not going to stop being themselves. And so any future of life that depends on us not being ourselves for us to survive, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Not going to happen. We are who we are. And we will be who we will be. And so what's the answer to this? We need to understand who we are. And we need to work joyfully and playfully within the paradigm of who we are and how it really works. And then we will be successful. If we keep trying to work on it in a way that it does not work, ain't gonna work. This is the full abstract of that article talking about human chromosome number 2. We conclude that basically what the article is it's a description of the entire configuration of human chromosome number 2 and the sequences on both sides of what appears to be telomeres in the middle. So there's this big old long set of sequences of stuff. In the middle is telomeres. And on both sides of the telomeres, particular sequences. And they examine it and describe it in the article. There's 4 or 5 pages of the article. It's really easy to find. pnas.org. It was published October 15th, 1991, this particular journal. And the article is the 40th one in. So count 1, 2, 3, 4. I couldn't find a table of contents to get me there any faster, but it's the 40th one in. And it says, we've identified that we conclude that blah, blah, blah is the relic of an ancient telomere to telomere fusion and marks the point at which 2 ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. Holy cow. Do you hear what this is saying? Now, if you don't believe it, or if you can't get there, if your mind just does not make that leap, fine, it's okay. This is just saying where our configuration came from. Our configuration is still what it is, whether you believe that we are genetically modified or not. But basically, this is saying to me that this is a genetic modification because this did not happen just by incremental Darwinian evolutionary processes, let alone random ones. That is not what this was, because what basically happened here is that 2 chromosomes, ape chromosomes, fused together, telomere to telomere, with redundancies on both sides, clipped away, stabilizes the fusion, creates the neocortex. Accident? I don't think so. And then when you put that together with how our emotional configuration almost literally sings to this quantum field, our emotions, the universe is responding to our emotional transmission. It's responding to it even without our emotions are like an amplifier. They're like because the universe is responding to all the vibration of all things. When a snail, crawling across the ecosystem, the sidewalk, the rocks or whatever, desires to find food and for food to be there, the universe responds to that, and over time, that which it desires blooms in the field. It's kind of the desires coming from within the system are fueling what appears in the system around it. But with human beings, it's like time is sped up, and the amplification of things it's just really interesting what human beings bring to this. And the reason I point that out at this point is because I don't think that, because of how our emotional configuration enhances our ability to interact with the quantum field, that's another reason for me to think that this genetic modification, or that it wasn't an accident, that somebody did it to us on purpose. And they probably knew what would happen with it. Now, that also brings up a lot of questions. Why did they do this to us? Did they know how we would turn out? Was it an accident, an experiment, a formula, a recipe? Are we them? Was it done to them? Are they enhanced hominids that somebody else did that to, and somebody else did that to, and where did it begin? Are we their children, their servants, their slaves? Did they lose touch with us? Or are they still out there, waiting for our inflammation to cool down, because we are inflamed? We have way too much agitation going on across the field. It's going to be probably pretty easy to tell when it's safe to come and visit us, because our vibration will have calmed down quite a bit. They're probably lurking out there behind the moons of Jupiter, waiting. They've got a what would it be? A vibratometer pointed at planet Earth, and they're waiting for that agitation that we are experiencing right now. The Shiva energy in the field, they can read it from across the solar system, I'm pretty sure. The Shiva energy that the human morphogenetic field has got going on it right now. And that is caused by us not knowing who we are. Not knowing who we are, not knowing where we're going, not knowing the meaning of our lives. I would like to help that. As a matter of fact, it is my solemn and loving intention to aid and abet the rising consciousness of humanity, and to help us find ourselves in our own skin and in our place in the universe. That is all I want to do. I want no movement to start behind me whatsoever, because basically my thesis is, the answer, people, is everybody get into your own machinery. Get into the center of your own center. Get behind the wheel of your own starship and man the damn thing. Care about how you feel. Find any state of positive emotion whatsoever. Build on it. Learn how to build the momentum of a positive direction. And it will actually help keep you safe from the storms of negative that's coming your way from the agitated people around you who do not know who they are. Promise you. Promise you. What else do I have left to say here? This is one way of going about doing that. The caring how you feel. If you are in a state of specific negative, which means you are looking at something very specific and it's negative and you don't like it, and it's causing you to offer a negative vibration unto the universe. It's a chaotic one is what it is, because you are a positive being. You are a positive being. We all are. There is nothing but the positive. We are all part of the biological field of the earth that is evolving and growing. We are all part of the abundance that surrounds us. We really are. Doesn't look like we are, but we are. So, we are all positive beings, and so you are positive. What are you being? Are you being negative? If you are being negative, then you are zapping yourself. It's like the equivalent of zapping yourself in the solar plexus with a cattle prod. That's what you're doing to yourself. You are crossing your own energy stream. You are not believing your own desires. You are not working with your beliefs and your desires to try to find where they might coincide with one another so that you can start moving towards what you desire. That motion of moving from where you are to what you desire is something that you need to start working with, that start intentionally doing it, because it's that motion forward that we all crave. And we could do a steady moving gently towards what we want, leaning that direction. It could be so much more easy than the lurchy, earthquakey things that are going to be coming at us because of the way we hold on to our fault lines. We just do not allow that incremental movement forward. I'll tell you right now, the answer is not lockstep and groupthink. Even though we are all one morphogenetic field, the answer to us moving harmoniously is not all of us working on the same plan. It is infinite diversity. And diversity is going to happen when each and every one of us individually goes into our own being and iterates our own self authentically from that center. It will produce all the diversity. I mean, we will be so diverse, and it's amazing, but we will be linked and locked in on spirit lines. And so the spirit will be playful, the spirit will be faithful, the spirit will be loving and kind and connected and joyful and meaningful. But the shape of it all will be different. We will all find our own way to express our own self. And lockstep and groupthink will be a thing of the past. That's what's so evil about when you look at something like North Korea. What you're looking at is an imposed, conditional lockstep and groupthink from the outside, as opposed to the encouragement of each one of the individuals within the group to follow their own star. Now, you can have it both ways. Each individual can follow their own star within the paradigm of a national group. That's okay. That is absolutely okay. And as a matter of fact, we love that. We love to do that. We love to feel how wonderful it feels to be from where we are, to be all about our local food and our local traditions and our local landscapes and our local history. We love that. Us all being individuals is not going to cut out our group identities. We will still have group identities that we are iterating individually from wherever our heart desires, quite frankly. It's the only way forward. Everyone must follow their heart's desire. And when it comes up against, then you go back and go back to the drawing board, recognizing always that what you're really looking for is a feeling. And you've translated the meaning of the feeling into an object. You may be wrong about that. You still want the feeling. You're not wrong to want the feeling. You want to feel better. You want to feel good. You're not wrong in that. You're right. You're right. You're right. I don't care who you are. If whatever you're doing, it looks wrong, but you can see that what you're doing is trying to feel better, maybe you're a drug addict. And the only way that you can get any relief is you take those drugs, and for a minute you've got broader perspective and you feel better. But then you come back and the reality around you is not supporting that. And so it's a rough ride. I'm not saying we should support all of our... But the impulse to feel better is not wrong. Do not condemn yourself for that feeling. You are right. You are right. And the billionaires, we condemn the billionaires. That impulse to enormous abundance is not wrong. It's not wrong. We condemn that abundance in them because we think they're hogging it all to themselves, when in fact, it's not a finite pie. It is a pie that grows and grows and grows and grows and grows, and we can make it grow. Let's grow that pie. Let's don't fight over the slices of pie that are just in existence. Let's grow the damn pie, people. Grow into the abundance, that future that I know we can find. But we gotta know who we are. We gotta know who we are to find. And just in general, we don't have to... In general, we need to know it in generally, and then specifically, you need to work it individually. Who am I? Who am I? So, last thing, cymatic patterns. These help us illustrate the vibrational nature of the universe. This is how you can conceptually understand how it indeed is vibrational. It's all vibration. These are cymatic patterns that are created through a digital device that when you pipe different frequency through it produces a different pattern. Every different frequency produces a unique pattern. Very cool. Very cool. This is a digital thing. This is not digital. This is the hard plates that were used to study cymatics, to invent it to begin with. It's the study of the relationship between vibration and form. That's what cymatics is. The relationship between vibration and form. And this shows conceptually how you can understand how the universe can be vibrational and how form follows vibration. Metal plates, upper right and lower left. That's a black metal plate with a granular medium, light-colored granular medium sprinkled on top of it. Pipe in a frequency, boom, a pattern emerges. Change the frequency, the pattern changes. So now, as you look around at our lives, and you see some things that are old that are still around. Patterns in the way that we do business, patterns in the ways that we understand each other, patterns in our education, our communication, all of that. You can see old patterns, they're still there. You see new ones coming into being, some that have only been around for just a few years. You know, it wasn't that long ago that you couldn't just make money by getting on your own little internet thing and getting the world to turn their attention your direction. And yet now you can do that. You can just sit in your apartment and turn on a live stream and let law of attraction bring you an audience, and then you capitalize. You make money that way. Remember I said that there is this impulse, there's this calling from across the field for all of us to capitalize. And you might push against that, you might resist that and think, oh, this is a bad thing, it's a bad thing, it's a bad thing. And in very many ways, it's a bad thing. It really is, you know. Countries who owe so much to the IMF that they have to turn their pristine landscapes into whatever in order to monetize so that they can pay back their loans, so that they can have access to whatever. It seems like a destructive thing, but what is it actually doing to us? It's causing us all to link in with one another. It means that we all have a stake in this collective thing that we are. We all have a stake in this collective thing that we are, even if we are living on Borneo or, out in the middle of the South Pacific. You still want to plug into the morphogenetic field of humanity, its technologies, its food supply, its energy supply, its transportation and communication systems. You want to tap into it, and if you want to tap into it, you have to monetize. And once you monetize, now you are vested in what we're all doing. We're all burning fossil fuels. Even if you aren't specifically, even if you're trying so hard, you've got your solar panels up and your wind turbines out and you're turning off your lights and you're all of the austere measures that you're trying to do. This is not going to take us into the future, people. It may be something we are increasingly needing to do now in order to make our electric bills, our what we can monetize meet the bills that are, but it's not the way forward. The way forward is to understand a better energy source, and that better energy source is the vibrational universe itself, the quantum field itself, 0 point energy. Understand how the origin of mass and the nature of gravity, and we will tap into a better energy source on the one hand, and we will conquer gravity on the other hand. And now our transportation systems they can fly across the planet. We no longer have to coat the world in asphalt and concrete, which that is the other thing that kills the biosphere. So that's my thesis, that this better understanding of who we are as vibrational beings, who we are as the quantum field, who we are as biotechnology, GMO'd biotechnology, by the way, which implies who did that and where are they? Anyway, we're going to add this last thing, the 5 kleshas from Buddhist philosophy considered to be the root causes of suffering. After our discussion today, you can decide for yourself how this fits into, the root causes of suffering being, I believe, for human beings, not knowing who we are. Not just identifying with an imaginary self, but overly identifying with an explorational self and a complete misunderstanding of the quantum field that we are. The divine matrix that we are truly made of. This oneness that we are with the Almighty, the holographic universe, which I did not mention. I did not go into much technical detail this morning about the holographic universe and how the informational transfer across all the scales now, as everything moves. Updating, now. And this transfer of data and information across all the scales is what source energy is. It is the universe interacting with itself. Everything interacting with everything all the time. Everything knows about everything. The universe knows about you, knows who you are, knows what you want. And all of source energy is basically focusing on what everything and everybody wants. All things, what everybody and everything wants. That's the fulcrum upon which it's moving forward. I don't know if fulcrum's the right word for that, but that's where it's all moving. With our desires. That's why it is so important. Get into your own equipment. Find your desire. Your desire is for a feeling. If you've got it unreasonably translated, work on it, because your desires are worthy. They are worthy. Your desire for better, your desire for more, for fun, for abundance, for clarity, for beauty, for ease and flow and kindness, and all of that is worthy and necessary. Everyone needs to be pulling that direction, and then we will all of us will get what we want. We can all have what we want. That's the place where we will get to when each and every one of us has in every moment the ability and the understanding of how to move right now in the direction of what we want, instead of getting transfixed by the vision of what we don't want, and then we stop and just stare at what we don't want and fuss and fume, and the next thing you know, that's what we're creating, because that's the way it works. Your thoughts and your emotions are becoming the reality that you're experiencing all around you. So, I think I will leave it at that. I'm almost at 2 hours, so it's kind of a long one for the day. I hope that I took us into some new and interesting places. In any case, if you are a new listener, welcome to the program. If you are a regular listener, thank you so much. I appreciate you stopping by and visiting with us. I will be in this space every morning talking about the same thing. I want to create this space of discussion, and someday I will feel strong enough and my tech skills will be good enough, and there will be enough of you out there to make this justified. I will turn on the streaming switch and I will allow you to ask questions, and you can join my discussion, actually. Add your 2 bits. Clarify and expand our understanding of who we are and how this works, and how this understanding can lead us out of the wilderness, and into paradise, or whatever, some version. Sorry, I may have cut off the last word. Excuse me. I meant to push this one because I'm getting ready to stop. So until tomorrow, I bid you joy, right? Is that the one I've been bidding you? Joy, peace, clarity. All of that. I wish all of that for you and for all of us. And so until tomorrow, I'm going to say goodbye.